So everyone, I'm going to record this so that if you want to make the dough for the bagels the night before, I can just show you quickly how to do it. I need to make it myself, so I figured I might as well do it for everyone. So what I'm going to do is make enough dough for probably about a dozen bagels. It's 1.5 of this recipe, and we'll take it from there. So first we're going to start out, we want to mix together barley malt or honey or brown sugar if you're using that, and water and yeast. We're going to put all that stuff together to make sure it's all mixed up. All right, so here we have warm water, which is part of what we want to use. So basically we're going to put 533 grams of water. Get the scale on. All right, so we're going to get 533 grams of water. Let's see if close enough, 532. All right, and then we're going to want to put of this malt syrup, which is incredibly sticky. So we're supposed to put 33 grams of that, so we're going to tare it again. And that is about 1.5 tablespoons. This stuff is really sticky. Then we are going to add the yeast. So here I have yeast. I bought it in a block, which those are totally sold out now from Smart & Final. The large soft lit yeasts. And here we're going to put about 3 grams in, which should be about a teaspoon and a half, or a teaspoon and a quarter, something. And then we will put, so we're going to mix those up together. Try to get the, in particular, we're trying to get off the bottom that malt. Then we're going to add to it basically the flour and the salt. Get the salt in there first, just so we spread it out. And then we'll do the flour. So it's 21 grams of salt. Which you really want to be careful not to do too much because you can't take it out. And then we're going to do flour. So again, this is bread flour. You can probably do it with all-purpose flour, but bagels are one of those things. The chewiness comes from using a higher gluten flour. So that will be the best if you can use a high gluten flour. Again, we're going to do this by weight. So we tare it again, and it looks like we want 1,020 grams of flour, which is about 7.5 cups. 939. Teeny bit more. There we go. So that's flour. Now we need to get the dough hook. Put it in the mixer. And again, as I think the recipe said, you have to be careful because this is a very hard dough. And so it puts a real strain on the mixer, which is why we don't want to make any more than this 1.5 of these recipes at a time. You also want to run the mixer on a slow setting. See that the dough is mixing in there and it's getting kind of stiff. We probably will have to peel it off the sides a little bit to get it to work. You can see now it's coming into a ball. We really, at this point, we don't want to let it go for too much longer just because of the risk to the motor of the mixer. I want to take it out and kind of finish it by hand. So it's over the mixer. And we're going to want to, no matter what we do, we're going to want to work it by hand more, just to make sure that it is, the ingredients are mixed in, there's no lumps. So we're trying to really get it smooth. All right, so we get it to this point. And basically what we want to do is we're going to divide it into 3 more or less even pieces. We can weigh it to see. So our total here is 1,600 grams roughly. So we want to make each of these about 533, right? Whoa, 537. 510. 532. 539. Okay. So we have these 3 chunks of dough, and essentially what we're going to do is we want to shape them into sort of a log like this, make sure there's not really air in the middle of it, and make sure the outside is kind of smooth. And then we're going to want to let them just sit here and rest, and have the gluten and the yeast a little bit start working. Because there was warm water in here, that moves the yeast a little bit faster. So we got these 3. We just want to put them under a towel. And this should rest for about 20 minutes. When I'm making a lot of bagels, I'll get these going, and then I'll do a whole second run of dough. So while that dough is resting, I'm going to slide this out of the way. And bring this pan out, and just a lasagna pan or whatever. And in there, I'm going to put some parchment paper down. We will also be wanting plastic wrap to put on top of that. So we're going to put the bagels in here and put them on the fridge, in the fridge. My goal is going to be to make probably a dozen bagels with the dough that we have here. I'm also going to get ready some other ingredients for tomorrow. So here's poppy seeds. Sesame seeds. Again, and get, you can see it. We use kosher salt as well. A little bit thicker than regular salt, table salt. And we will also want to prepare some garlic. Well, I'll just get these ready. I'm not going to chop them tonight. But garlic bagels are delicious. And you're not cooking the garlic, it's cooking plenty on the tops of those bagels. You can also use some other things. Caraway seeds. Za'atar is probably pretty good on it. I'll try one of those. And so on. No blueberries, no raisins. I'm going to say that this dough has rested long enough. At least we can start with the first one here. So what we're going to do is, so the idea is we want to make this, you can see how it's stretching really easily. We want to make this into a pretty long, well, there's different ways to do it, but basically the idea is this will make 4 or 5 bagels depending on the size. And so we're going to want to stretch it. The reason that the bagel is going to be chewy partly is because we're not just taking a lump of dough and poking a hole in it. We are doing this. We're pulling and stretching while we go. And you could just cut this and sort of take it, but this is how the book says to do it, and it seems to work. I'm kind of going in here. I'm pinching the dough. And there's probably fancier ways to do it, but I am kind of squeezing it together and evening it. You really want to make sure that seam is pretty tight because you don't want the bagel to open up. Sometimes I feel like it's happening here, you're going to get a little bit of air in the dough. And sort of want to avoid that sort of bubble in there. It's not the best. Notice how I'm putting in a little bit of water, which is both making the skin of the bagel smoother and it's giving me more tension on the table. So you can see here, this is how they say to do it. Kind of rolling, and it's very easy to sort of break it doing this. I haven't quite learned it, but I'm rolling the dough as I do that. Again, the water both kind of smooths the skin, and if you don't want to use too much water, because what you want is the tension. So you can see, not totally even, but you can see that it's a smooth skin. It's not as if I had punched it out, right? If I took a chunk of dough, I could take it and sort of, put a hole in it, and that would work, but it wouldn't have the stretchy texture that is what we want here. So those are kind of bagels on the small side. I'll try to make one a little bit bigger. I think the book says try to do about 12 inches to make like a regular size bagel. So again, it takes a little getting used to. What's going to happen is some of these are going to close up a little bit, but these will, when we take them out of the fridge before we put them in the water, we will be able to adjust them a little bit. Here's number 2. Again, I'm sort of, as I go, I'm rolling it out and I'm stretching. And then you don't want it to tear, which is what's happening there. You definitely want it smooth. So then I'm going to take it, sometimes you want to make it a little bit thinner, where you're going to match the 2 pieces together. And if it doesn't work, don't worry about it. But there, I have sealed that one, more or less. Okay, again, picking it up, going there, pinching it, and rolling in a way that didn't work very well there. Okay, so there I've made it a little bit thinner. That's good. You can see it's fairly even and pretty smooth. Seal it up a little bit. So generally, it's okay if the bagels are touching in here. If you want, you could put down some cornmeal. You don't really have to. And you can see just a little bit of water, again, making the nice smooth exterior. It's a bigger one. All right, so here you've got a dozen bagels. Can't really see how the light is. There's the dozen bagels, and you have to squeeze them in a little bit, or frankly, I could put them on top a little. Again, it's a very dry dough, so we don't have to worry about it sort of sticking too much. What we do want to do, if I was making 2 dozen, I probably wouldn't put, I'm going to put plastic wrap on this. What I probably wouldn't do is to put another, I've done it, put another layer of bagels right on top, just because that will, they won't be able to rise. They don't rise a lot. They rise a little bit, but we don't want to sort of impede that or have them get really stuck. So, I've got them covered, and then I'm going to put those in the fridge. And really, the way, as the recipe says, the best thing is if you can make them Saturday night or in the evening, and then let them sit in the fridge, and then take them out right before you want to bake them in the morning.